Hi, everyone. Hello, and welcome to day one of the Is Weight Loss the Answer workshop. If you're here, first, let me introduce myself. My name is Season Hathaway. I am a personal trainer, a certified personal trainer through the National Association of Sports Medicine. I have a specialization in postpartum and prenatal bodies, but I have a special passion for postpartum bodies. I myself am a mother of two, and my first postpartum experience was extremely difficult for me, especially when it came to finding movement that felt right for me. And if you're here today, that might be you. And I think, and if you're here today, you are likely also struggling with the idea of weight loss, especially in that postpartum period. Maybe you are tired of thinking about weight loss. Maybe you are looking for an answer to weight loss and looking for a way to start your movement journey or start your journey toward weight loss. Whatever it may be, I will be addressing each of those things. I will be talking a lot about why we feel the need to lose weight pretty quickly in the postpartum period and what that actually means for us. And I like to think that this workshop is a little bit of a different view and a little bit of a different perspective on weight loss for the postpartum period. So rather than getting quick tips or one-time fixes for your postpartum weight loss, I like to think of this as a realistic and very long-term look at the postpartum journey as it pertains to weight loss, and something that will hopefully bring value to you for years to come, as opposed to just the next few weeks or the next few months, and hopefully help you to really dive deeply and discover what you really want from your movement journey, from your weight loss journey. All right. So before you get started, make sure you have your workbook, the official workbook that is part of this workshop. You can find the link for that in the description of this video. And if you have any issues with it, reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get that one way or another. All right. And you will be filling that out as you do this workshop. I know that you're probably very busy. You're probably watching this while you're watching the kids, or you're driving, or hopefully you're not watching this while you're driving. Maybe you're listening. So don't feel too much pressure to fill out the workbook. But I know for me, having something physical in front of me, having something to help me remember some of these things can be really helpful, and even to look back on and have those notes available. And that workbook has some homework for you. Homework, it shouldn't take you long. Again, this is meant to support you through this, not make you feel like you have another thing on your list of to-dos. Okay? All right, let's get started. So, first, today we're talking about breaking free from weight loss. Okay, so rather than diving headfirst into troubleshooting how to lose weight or how to approach weight loss in the postpartum period, I want us to dive even deeper and think about the how weight loss affects each of us individually. Okay, how the idea of weight loss, especially in this period of time in our lives, really affects us, how it's affected us our entire lives, and what that means for us as we enter into this postpartum period. Or maybe, maybe you're even years postpartum and you're still kind of struggling with this and you're not sure why. What we're really going to do is get down to the root of why you may be struggling with this and really what to do with it. Okay. So first, we're going to think about the pressures that we feel to lose weight. Okay. And they come from many places. And I split them up into two groups. The first being obvious pressures. Okay. These are pressures that are pretty straightforward. I think a lot of us already know about them, are pretty aware of them on a regular basis. The first being societal expectations and pressures that are put on us, especially as women, and even more so as postpartum women. First, we have celebrity and media depictions of postpartum women. And I know you're aware of this, whether it be Kate Middleton or Rihanna or whoever, Beyonce, whoever it may be. Um, when they begin their postpartum journeys or even their pregnancy journeys, it's all about their body. It's all about a lot of the coverage on them is placed directly on their bodies and what they look like, whether or not they're staying in shape during their pregnancy. And there is just a lot of focus on their body. And that in itself can affect the way we view ourselves and how our bodies are changing during pregnancy, and then how they change after, right? We see coverage of their bodies after they've had their babies, and a lot of the discussion is on how quickly they return to their pre-baby body, right? We've been hearing this a lot. I feel like this is a discussion that we've been having for a little while now, which is helpful. I think we're finding that maybe this type of discussion isn't particularly helpful to have about women's bodies. And so that's a good thing. Our second one is family and peers. So I think we end up getting a lot of, uh, for many of us, not for all of us, but for many of us, we have pressures from our family members. A lot of talk around our bodies, especially around the holidays. When we see people we don't normally see and our bodies have shifted and changed throughout the year. Oftentimes, it is the very first thing that some of our family members like to say to us is whether it's "you look great," which is usually what it is, right? You've lost a lot of weight, or you look like you've gained some weight, or you haven't gotten rid of that baby weight yet. Whatever it may be. There's a lot of discussion around weight in our bodies from our families. And for a lot of us, it is almost generational, right? We've had these types of experiences with whether it be our moms or our parents. Some of us, it's almost like a family tradition, a family culture around weight loss, right? And a lot of that is triggering as we move into the postpartum period. Our second little group here is social media influence. So I think for many of us who are on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, we view a lot of whether it's advertising, whether it's people we follow, weight loss, especially for postpartum, is a huge topic of discussion. And a lot of times we'll see that in ways that are, maybe well intentioned, or maybe a way of sharing their own personal journey through movement and weight loss. And so we'll see a lot of things like before and after photos and things like that. And while they may be well intentioned, even sometimes under the guise of body positivity, they are still very much comparing a pre pre-baby body or a pre-weight loss body and a post-weight loss body, and whether or not they are claiming to be body positive or body neutral, whatever it may be. Having those two contrasted pictures, usually very much focused on your belly, or on certain areas of your body that are showing major changes in weight, they can lead to a lot of personal comparison with bodies that aren't our own, aren't really what it's uh very different bodies from our own. So we find ourselves comparing ourselves to people who are genetically very different from us, have had very different backgrounds, have very different resources available to them. And so it can be very unhelpful in that way. And even though they are trying to present it as something that is a helpful resource. Secondly, we have quick fixes. So the promise of change in a short amount of time with products or programs that are ineffective or even dangerous. We get a lot of information from social media. For some of us, we end up purchasing things on social media, which isn't always inherently bad, right? Some things do work well for us, whatever it may be. but it is easy to kind of go along with something that you see on TikTok or Instagram because they are very good um, at pulling those heartstrings and making it very emotional for you and making it something that is they are claiming is a quick fix and something that will for sure work for you when they cannot make those promises. And a lot of times they are doing those things without sources, without any types of studies or anything that are really supporting those things. And it can be really difficult as a consumer to get the information you need to make sure that these things are safe and that they are actually effective in the way that they are saying they are. It's really difficult to know whether or not these social media influencers are a trusted source of information. And that being said, again, the focus is on losing weight, right? Rather than maybe finding functionality or helping you in a way that you value, right? And I think that's what kind of leads us toward um, this idea that this should be our goal, right? We end up feeling like this should be something that I should want. And we're going to get into that a little bit deeper, but we really want to be asking the question of like, what is it that I really want from my movement journey, from my exercise journey? What do I want in postpartum? And that may or may not be weight loss for you. Okay, so and not so obvious pressures, we're going to go through these pretty quickly, hopefully. But the first being cultural norms. These are things that are maybe not quite as obvious to us as we move through life. Social media, our family talking to us about our weight is a very straightforward thing that we see pretty often and can be pretty easy to identify. Whereas those not so obvious things like cultural norms can be harder to, and our relationships with our healthcare providers and just normalized internal pressures can be things that are just not as noticeable to us and can have even more of an effect as a result. So, cultural norms are, in terms of weight loss, it's just this general acceptance that weight loss is just a part of postpartum or that weight loss is expected for everyone, right? It's just like either it's going to happen or it should happen, right? And that is something that I think we've all just kind of come to accept because that is always part of the postpartum story when it is told to us. And remembering that that is not always necessarily the case for everyone because our bodies change in different ways. Our bodies are very different. We have very different things that happen to us, right? In terms of some of us get pregnant right away after we have our first baby, or, we have babies one right after the other, or we have medical complications, or our bodies just kind of hold on to the fat that we've gained during pregnancy in a different way. And so that never seems to be part of the story of postpartum that is told to us is how to really think about that and whether that's good or bad. There's you know a lot of feelings that are placed on that for us, and a lot of times the idea being weight loss is the good thing that you want to happen to you in that postpartum period. So that's actually the second one, moral value attached to a smaller body. So I think in general in our society, when you have a smaller body or when you have lost weight, that is always kind of seen as an achievement, that is seen as something that is good for you, when that is not always necessarily the case. I myself had an experience where I was not wanting to lose weight, and it became something that was a health issue for me. But when I was approached by people, family members, friends, it was always framed as something that was good, and it was not a good thing for me. And so, recognizing that within our culture, within our community, especially here in the United States, even, but in many, many places in the world, a lot of times a smaller body is attached to this morality of like you're taking good care of yourself, when that is not always necessarily the case. Another not so obvious source of pressure for weight loss is our healthcare providers. Healthcare providers are an important part of our overall health and wellness. That I want to make sure to say they are extremely important to us. They provide us with the care that we need, especially in our perinatal period. But they are human and they are also susceptible to weight loss or to weight bias. So, a lot of times, especially in that postpartum period, in that perinatal period, what's the first thing you do when you walk into the doctor's office? They weigh you, right? And it's often a point of discussion during your OBGYN appointments, during that 6 week check in, and whether or not you've lost the pregnancy weight that you've put on, whether or not that's healthy. And what I want to emphasize is that for a lot of these doctors, they are not necessarily trained in a way to speak about weight bias that keeps our history with weight loss and our history with maybe eating disorders or food or dieting in mind. And they are expected to make comments on our weight loss or make recommendations on our bodies without really knowing our full history, which I understand is a part of not having the time to do those things, but we need to be aware of that as patients. Okay. So, when your doctor starts to make weight loss a discussion, or if you want to make weight loss a discussion with your doctor, you need to make sure that your family history, blood work, your past relationship with food and dieting, and possibly even asking for a referral to a dietitian or a nutritionist is part of the conversation. Okay, I don't. I There are so many instances where I've seen people even coming to me as a personal trainer, as someone who's going to get them exercising, talking about how their doctor had kind of on a whim just kind of uh, said like, oh, weight loss should be part of what you're doing right now, without really giving any thought to um, maybe the fact that they've had issues with uh, eating disorders or other things related to dieting and food in the past that will greatly affect them as they move forward in their postpartum um, experience. Okay. So making sure to advocate for yourself and making sure that all of these things are part of your discussion with your doctor and that you feel that you can have a respectful and trusted conversation with them, if that makes sense, or you feel like you have a trusted relationship with your doctor in speaking about this. And if you don't, asking them for a referral to a dietitian or a nutritionist. So that specializes in your particular situation. Okay. So a lot of times doctors may not have the time to be able to sit down with you and really go through these things. And I understand that. But making sure unfortunately, it then comes to us to advocate for ourselves and get the things we need and the information we need because we are the ones that know about us, right? We know about our history. Lastly, normalize internal pressures. So, feeling guilt or shame if we aren't able to achieve weight loss in a certain time frame often leads to chronic negative self-talk. So sometimes we don't even notice this is happening to us. Those thoughts, those non-stop kind of thoughts around our bodies, around our weight loss journeys, can really take a toll on us and can really affect how we overall kind of feel about our bodies. And sometimes these are things that we don't even know that we're doing. So being aware of those things and being aware of those thoughts and really working on maybe shifting those thoughts away. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to come to a place of positivity, a body positivity, but maybe even to a place of neutrality about your body can be a huge step in the direction of really finding what's meaningful and valued to you as opposed to what may be valued more in our society and what is pressuring you. Okay, with that said, if you're watching the recording of this, I would love for you to put down in the comments what are some things that you have been promised will happen as a result of weight loss. I want you to put in, whether that be I will be happier, or I can fit into cuter clothes, or I will enjoy my life more. I want you to put down in the comments below what those things are that you've been promised. I think we are given a lot of promises around weight loss, and kind of always have that as our end goal without really considering what we want, and instead really focusing on the things that whoever's making that promise to us is telling us is important in our lives, right? And so, what we're going to be talking about during this workshop is what is actually important to us and how to kind of go about reaching those goals that are more in line with our values, as opposed to kind of going along with what we are told is the things that we should want, um, and just kind of following along with that, and not really ever diving deeply into what really matters to us and making meaningful decisions about our bodies. All right, so put that in the comments. I know that's kind of a tough question, but I want to know. I want to know what you've kind of been telling yourself. What is that inner narrative that you've been telling yourself? If I could just lose 10 pounds, if I could just lose 15 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever it may be, um, this is what I will get as a result. Okay, with that being said, I want to be a voice in the ether telling you that weight loss is not the first or only step to postpartum health. Okay, I think that tends to be the message we get, whether or not it's said blatantly or not. Weight loss is always usually the first thing on the list that is talked about when it comes to our health postpartum. There's some things to consider before or even in place of weight loss is one, body education. Okay. So for many of us, we did not receive the information about our bodies that we needed to understand, not only previous to having kids, but even during pregnancy and postpartum. We don't understand what is happening to our bodies. We don't understand the transition that we go through. We don't understand how our body has changed, and we don't understand what we can do in order to support it. And for many of us, women in particular, we are not told the very basics about our bodies and why they are doing what they're doing. Okay, so that I think is a major stepping stone that needs to be reached before we can even consider weight loss. All right. Second is self exploration. So now that you know something about your body, taking the time to really, whether it be like physically exploring your body or even just like asking yourself what you need on a regular basis, and listening to your body and listening to what it is telling you on a minute to minute basis, on a daily basis, is not something we are ever encouraged to do, really. It isn't something that is part of our understanding of who we are and our bodies and our experience in our bodies. We are told so often what we should be feeling, and to not pay attention to the things that our body is telling us, whether it be cravings or hunger cues, or the desire to rest or to move. We are so often told to deny those feelings and instead do something else that is going to help our bodies become smaller or quieter or less visible, that it is hard for us to actually know what our body needs anymore, or understand what our body is cueing us for, or even feel those cues. And so having that body education and then taking the time to really take a moment to breathe, take a moment to ask your body what it needs, can be incredibly important and a very simple thing to do. I know it sounds a little woo-woo, but it's really something that doesn't have to be that way. You can just be asking yourself, like, what am I feeling right now? Like, I have a headache. I need to take a drink of water, or I need to go take a nap, right? And so maybe that isn't always something you can do, but at least you are taking the time to know what you need in that moment. And then the troubleshooting of how to get that is next. Lastly, your unique goals and aspirations. Okay. This is such an important part for us to understand ourselves and what we actually want out of life. And I'm here to tell you right now that you are allowed to have your own goals and your own aspirations for your life, even in this postpartum period. Okay. And I know that might look different than if you had no kids. Or if you were living on your own, right? But you can still have dreams. You can still have things that you want out of life. And maybe, having kids was a dream of yours, and now you've achieved that. You have your kids. Now, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want it to feel like, even on a daily basis? What is a day in the life of you, the perfect day, look for you? And like, what would you want out of it? Okay. Um, that is something that is so important to establish before you consider weight loss. Okay. I think we're told so often that in order to get all of these things we want, weight loss has to be first, when we're not even given a chance to really ask ourselves what we want. And so, and as women, again, I don't think we're ever really encouraged to want, right? We're not encouraged to want more money. We're not encouraged to want, a bigger house. We're not encouraged to want more. We're often told to be grateful for what we already have and just stick with that. And so the amount of power um, and joy that can come from you discovering and finding what you want is incredibly important, and such an important goal before you even think about weight loss. Okay, before we go, you have a journal question that I would like you to journal on. 5 minutes. Do it right now. Do it right now as I'm talking. Or do it before you leave. Okay. Don't go back and do the things you're gonna do yet. Do this before you close your computer, turn off your phone, whatever it is you're doing. I want you to consider the following questions and take at least 5 minutes to journal on them before our next session. So make sure you do this before you watch the next video. There is no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers. You may have thought about this before, or this might be the first time you've ever considered this. Here we go. What are your current or past goals around health and exercise? Why do I feel like I need these things? Why do I feel like I need to do these things in order to be healthy? Where did I get this information? And then if you have never had goals or any type of goals around movement or exercise, I still want you to ask yourself, what are your general feelings in regards to your body? Why do I feel these things about my body? And where did these thoughts come from? Who told me this? And did these thoughts and feelings come from an obvious or a less obvious source? So I want you to go back and look at our slide from before or onto your workbook on those obvious and less obvious sources. And knowing that might give you a little bit of insight into why you feel the way you do. All right, do that and then watch the second session. All right, see you there.